Welcome to Faith 7 Business, where stories ignite faith and strategy. Every word here is crafted to inspire, transform minds, and drive action. Why your startup is still stuck. It's not because of a lack of capital, but because you haven't crossed your inner Jordan. It's not the cold market that's killing your dream, it's your old mindset. You're trying to build a promised land business with an Egyptian way of thinking. The solution isn't another business model, it's a transformed leader. Joshua didn't copy Moses, neither should you. You must be reshaped for this new season. Innovation doesn't begin with an idea, it begins with a calling. Let scripture and a faith-driven strategy lead you to an anointed business. Comment, "I'm ready to cross my Jordan," if you're truly ready for the journey ahead. Lessons on transformation and innovation in entrepreneurship, stepping into your promised land business. The story of Israel entering the promised land, found in Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and Joshua, is more than historical narrative. It's a powerful metaphor for transformation. After 40 years of wandering, a time of testing, refinement, and preparation, the Israelites crossed the Jordan River under Joshua's leadership and entered the land God promised them. That journey is a vivid reflection of the modern entrepreneur's path, stepping out into the unknown, navigating financial deserts, and confronting intense competition to claim their own promised land, a business that is sustainable, impactful, and truly kingdom-minded. 1. Innovation begins with calling, not capital. Like Abraham, leaving his homeland to follow an unseen path, true entrepreneurship begins with an inner calling, not with funding or a perfect business plan. A Christian entrepreneur is called not just to escape Egypt, old systems and comfort zones, but to enter Canaan, the land of responsibility, leadership, and influence. You don't start a business to gain freedom. You start it because you're called to steward. 2. Every innovation walks through the desert to break the old mindset. The 40 years in the wilderness weren't failure. They were the furnace that transformed slaves to leaders. Likewise, your early startup phase may feel like a desert. Scarce capital, unclear direction, overwhelming doubt. But it's in that crucible that God forges your inner strength, where you learn to hear His voice, stay the course, and sharpen your leadership identity. God won't give you the promised land until you're ready to manage it. 3. True shift requires a new leader, one who thinks differently. Joshua didn't imitate Moses. He led in a new way, bold, decisive, and ready to act. That's the model for today's innovator. Don't rely on past glory. Lead with obedience and clear strategy. Entrepreneurship demands constant reinvention. Never stop learning, never stop adapting. Every new season requires a new Joshua within you. 4. Crossing the Jordan. Obedience first, miracles later. The Jordan River only parted when the priests stepped into the water. That's the pattern of faith in action. You don't wait to see to believe. You believe and then see. In business, if you wait until you're fully ready, you'll never start. Innovation begins with your first obedient step, even when you can't see the full map. Miracles in business begin with obedient action. 5. Jericho, the fortress you must bring down. Markets are never empty. Competition, outdated systems, and fear of failure are your Jerichos. But they won't fall by force, only by strategy and unwavering faith. Israel didn't rush Jericho. They walked around it in worship and obedience. Sustainable innovation comes not from quick wins, but from long-term alignment with God's plan. The promised land must be built. It's not a lottery win. Even after entering Canaan, the Israelites had to divide the land, build cities, plant crops, and defend what was theirs. Likewise, in business, success isn't a one-night victory. It's a daily walk of faithfulness. Innovation isn't a one-time spark. It's a continuous cycle. Create, evaluate, refine, and press on. Conquering is an event. Building is a lifelong journey.
2. The journey to the promised land. From promise to action. Every great journey begins with a promise. For the people of Israel, it began with God's call to Abraham. Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. Genesis 12, verse 1. This promise was later reaffirmed to Isaac, Genesis 26, verse 3, and Jacob, Genesis 28, verse 13, describing a land flowing with milk and honey, a symbol of abundance, freedom, and divine destiny. But the road to the promised land was not lined with ease. After being delivered from slavery in Egypt, the people endured 40 years in the wilderness, a time of doubt, rebellion, and profound spiritual testing. From slaves to stewards, a spiritual shift, not just a geographic one. This was no mere physical journey. It was a transformation of identity, from the mindset of slaves to the calling of land stewards. Each step through the desert was meant to purify their hearts, strengthen their faith, and shape their capacity to lead. The Joshua moment, stepping into destiny through obedient faith. Under Joshua's leadership, the Israelites finally arrived at the Jordan River, the last barrier before entering the land. The miracle of the waters parting as the priests stepped into the river, Joshua 3, verse 14 to 17, was more than a supernatural event. It was a spiritual turning point. Obedience precedes miracles. Action unlocks breakthrough. That moment marked a shift from waiting for the promise to walking in fulfillment. A message for today's entrepreneur. You may also be standing on the banks of your own Jordan, caught between promise and reality, vision and execution. God has spoken over your life, a calling, an area of influence, a business with kingdom impact. But to enter it, you must leave behind the slave mindset, limitations and fear. Step forward even when the path is unclear. Obey even when it would be easier to delay. Every God-called entrepreneur must cross a river, and that's where miracles begin. 3. Startup lessons. Innovation as a journey of faith. Israel's journey is not just ancient history, it's a living model of innovation for modern entrepreneurs. Each stage, from Egypt to Canaan, reveals foundational principles for building not just any business, but a business in step with obedience and faith. 1. Start with the promise, not the profit. Israel didn't embark on their journey by ambition, but by a sacred promise. Christian entrepreneurship begins with a holy why, not just a market opportunity. Whom is God calling me to serve, and for what purpose? The promise comes before the strategy. When your why is strong enough, you'll endure any how. 2. Transformation requires shedding the old. The 40 years in the desert weren't a delay, they were a reset of mindsets. Real entrepreneurship begins when you let go of employee thinking, release dependence on old systems, redefine your leadership identity. You can't run a promised land business with an Egyptian mindset. 3. New season, new leader. Become the Joshua within. Joshua was not a replica of Moses. He was bold, decisive, and strategic, a model for today's startup leader. To innovate, you must become your own Joshua. Make decisions faster. Embrace calculated risks. Keep learning and keep praying. Every promised land needs a new kind of leader. 4. Step into the water, then the water will part. Business doesn't wait for perfect readiness. When God speaks, act. That first step, no matter how small, unlocks the miracles ahead. Real commitment begins when your feet touch the water. 5. Be faithful in every circle, even if the walls haven't fallen yet. Jericho didn't fall on day 1. The people marched 13 times without seeing results, but they remained faithful. So must you. Stick with the plan even when results delay. Keep the faith even when the market is silent. Trust that God is working through your unseen obedience. Miracles often come after the final lap. Don't quit one circle too early.
IV. Leadership renewal. A new season requires a new guide. The shift from Moses to Joshua is one of Scripture's clearest pictures of leadership transition. Moses, who led Israel out of Egypt and through 40 years of wilderness, was not permitted to enter the Promised Land. I have let you see it with your eyes, but you shall not go over there. Deuteronomy 34, verse 4. Instead, God appointed Joshua, young, courageous, and strategically gifted, to lead the people into their destiny. 1. New season, new model, new leader. Each phase of growth demands a different kind of leader. Moses was the pioneer, laying spiritual foundations, establishing law, and breaking chains. But conquering and settling new territory required someone with strategic clarity and a warrior spirit, Joshua. In startups, early phases need a founder, passionate, agile, and multitasking. But as the business grows, leadership must evolve, building systems, leading teams, and sustaining vision across scale. 2. Humility to let go, courage to step in. The decision to pass the baton, like Moses handing leadership to Joshua, isn't failure. It's wisdom, humility, and faith. Not every founder is the best long-term CEO. Knowing when to step aside enables the business to outgrow your personal limitations. At the same time, the successor, like Joshua, must lead differently, not by imitation, but by inspiration. Do not be afraid, for I will be with you as I was with Moses. Joshua 1, verse 5. This word is not just for Joshua, it's for every new leader stepping into a divine assignment. Lessons for the Christian entrepreneur. Discern your role in this season. Are you a starter, a builder, or a scaler? Have the courage to admit your limits. Maturity doesn't mean control, it means knowing when and whom to empower. Build a legacy of people, not just success. Moses didn't hoard influence, he discipled Joshua. True leadership doesn't leave behind just a reputation. It leaves behind a successor. V. Entering new territory. When stepping into the river is stepping into destiny. The image of the Israelites crossing the Jordan River into the Promised Land is not just a historical moment. It's a powerful metaphor for every decision to expand, innovate, and step into unfamiliar territory as an entrepreneur. When the river had not yet parted, everything was still unclear, but they stepped forward, not in certainty, but in faith. And the waters only parted when faithful feet touched the rushing stream. As soon as the feet of the priests bearing the ark touched the water, the river stood still and rose up in a heap. Joshua 3, verse 15 through 17. 1. Every step of innovation requires courageous faith. Just like a tech startup entering the global market or a local business pivoting to a new product or model, that's a step into the Jordan. They don't know what awaits on the other side. They face cultural differences, complex regulations, powerful competitors. They're tested in their faith, in the vision they believe they were given. Faith is not the absence of fear, it's stepping forward even while trembling. 2. Faith is the foundation, but preparation is a requirement. Joshua didn't walk blindly. He was prepared, trained, prayerful, strategic. Likewise, entering new territory isn't recklessness. It's mission-driven movement, guided by calling and covered in prayer. In practical terms, research local culture, regulations, and consumers. Adapt your product without compromising your core values. Build a team that's flexible and adaptable, but unwavering in spirit. A new step isn't to experiment, it's to claim what God already promised. Number 3, no one crosses the Jordan alone. The Israelites crossed together. The leader stepped in first, but the whole community followed. For entrepreneurs, you might receive the vision, but it takes a team to complete the journey. Lead your team with a clear vision, a word-inspired sense of purpose, and a strategy rooted in service and mission.
6. Overcoming obstacles. When creativity and faith are your greatest weapons. Among all the milestones on the road to the Promised Land, conquering Jericho is one of the most striking examples of a victory not by human strength, but by divine strategy. Instead of attacking traditionally, Israel obeyed the Lord, marching in silence for 6 days, then shouting and sounding trumpets on the 7th day. The walls fell without a single arrow. Joshua 6, verses 1 through 20. 1. The walls in business are real, but not unbreakable. Every entrepreneur faces their own Jerichos, competitors with greater resources, legal barriers in market expansion, lack of funding, distribution, or initial recognition. These walls are hard to break, especially if you rely only on your own strength. But God didn't call you to win by might. He called you to win through strategy and obedience. 2. Perseverance plus creativity, the Christian entrepreneur's dual weapons. Israel's silent marching may have seemed irrational, but it was supernatural strategy. In business, too, the best solutions are often outside the box. Don't compete only on price. Build an emotional brand that resonates deeply. Don't chase trends. Become a leader with timeless, transformative solutions. Don't flood the market with ads. Tell a true story that touches the soul of your audience. Not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord. Zechariah 4, verse 6. 3. When the walls haven't fallen, keep circling. The incredible part, for 6 days nothing happened, but Israel didn't quit. This is a picture of faithful perseverance, acting even when you see no result. In business, stay committed to your long-term strategy. Keep sowing seeds even when the market is quiet. Trust the mission when everything still looks silent. Miracles often come after your last round of obedience. Don't stop just because the wall is still standing. 7. Self-sufficiency. When the manna stops, it's time to plant. When the Israelites stepped into the Promised Land, something extraordinary happened. The manna stopped. The manna ceased the day after they ate from the produce of the land. Joshua 5, verse 12. From that point on, they had to plant, harvest, and build their lives through their own hands. It wasn't a withdrawal of grace, it was a call to maturity. 1. You may start with support, but growth requires ownership. Startups often begin with angel investors, accelerator grants, or startup-friendly policies. But if you never evolve into a self-sustaining operation, you'll remain in a wilderness of dependency and never truly take ownership of your destiny. The manna didn't stop to starve you, it stopped so you would learn to sow and reap. 2. Self-sufficiency doesn't mean isolation, it means intentionality and renewal. Moving from dependency to maturity means rethinking your operating model, from chasing endless growth to optimizing processes and expenses, from relying on paid ads to building loyal communities and word-of-mouth traction, from capital races to sustainable value creation and profit control. Example: a startup reliant on Google or Facebook ads can shift to customer retention by investing in community, post-sale care, and content, far more cost-effective than acquiring new leads.
3. Self-sufficiency is a sign of leadership maturity. Just as Israel was now entrusted to steward their promised territory, Christian entrepreneurs must transition from being carried to building, leading, and multiplying. This is the time to audit your financial model, restructure your team to eliminate waste, build growth strategies on a sustainable foundation, not external manna. Self-sufficiency doesn't mean you don't need God. It means you're walking in a more mature partnership with Him. V. Self-sufficiency. When the manna stops, it's time to sow. 1. You may begin with support, but growth requires initiative. Startups may launch with angel investment, grants, or favorable ecosystems. But unless they transition to self-sufficiency and cash flow, they will remain in a wilderness of dependency, never truly owning their destiny. The manna didn't stop to starve you. It stopped so you'd learn to sow and reap. 2. Self-sufficiency doesn't mean isolation. It means initiative and innovation. Moving from dependence to autonomy is not just about changing funding sources. It's about renewing your operational mindset, from chasing endless growth to optimizing cost and process, from relying on paid ads to creating superior user experiences, loyal customers, and organic word of mouth, from chasing capital to creating real value and managing profit responsibly. For example, an e-commerce company dependent on Google Facebook ads can pivot by investing in customer care, community building, and high-value content to retain old customers, which is far more cost-effective than acquiring new ones. Self-sufficiency is a sign of leadership maturity. Just as the Israelites had to take ownership of the land God had given, Christian entrepreneurs must move from being supported to builders, leaders, and influencers. This is the moment to audit your financial model, restructure teams and eliminate waste, build a sustainable growth strategy rooted not in external manna, but in mature stewardship. Self-sufficiency doesn't mean you don't need God. It means you're walking in a deeper partnership with Him. VIII. Final lessons. Entrepreneurship is a journey of faith, courage, and adaptability. The journey of the Israelites was not merely a historic migration. It's a mirror of leadership, innovation strategy, and resilient faith. Every step they took is a message to today's entrepreneur. To enter your business promised land, you must see through God's vision, not through the fear of the crowd. 1. Vision and faith, daring to believe when others doubt. When 12 spies scouted the promised land, 10 saw giants and walls, but only Joshua and Caleb saw God's promise. If the Lord delights in us, He will bring us into this land. Do not fear them. Numbers 14, verses 6-9. They didn't deny the risks. They saw the risks in light of God's power. As a startup founder, people may say the market is saturated. Investors may question your experience, funding, or unusual model. Even your team might not fully see what you see. But if God has put that vision in your heart, hold fast. Say as Caleb did, "We can surely take the land." Vision isn't just to inspire. It's to anchor you when no one else believes.
2. Courage to move without waiting for perfect conditions. Joshua led Israel into the Promised Land with walls still standing and enemies ahead. They had no detailed map, no superior army, but they had God's promise. As an entrepreneur, courage means launching your product even if it's not perfect, meeting with a major client even if you're not 100% ready, expanding when you still don't have guaranteed success. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's choosing to move forward because you know who called you. 3. Adaptability. Shifting to rise above. Israel had to learn to live in the wilderness, transition from manna to farming, shift from marching to settling and building. Startups must share that spirit. Pivot business models when the markets shift. Redesign products based on real feedback. Let go of old strategies to enter new growth territory. Failure to adapt is self-exile from your promised land. Adaptability. Shifting to survive and multiply. One of the greatest turning points for Israel after entering the Promised Land was shifting from a nomadic lifestyle, reliant on manna and tents, to permanent settlement, agriculture, and self-governed economy. This wasn't just a change in geography, it was a renewal of mindset, skills, and spiritual maturity. 1. No longer living by miracles, but by strategy. The end of manna marked a maturity moment. They now had to cultivate crops and harvest, divide land and organize society, protect and grow their economy long term. Adapting to new environments wasn't optional, it was the price of survival and flourishing. In entrepreneurship, adaptability is survival. Markets shift faster than ever. Any business that cannot evolve with customer behavior, tech trends, or social dynamics will be left behind. 2. Courage to advance. Don't wait until everything is ready. Joshua and the Israelites entered the Promised Land even though walls still stood and enemies awaited. They had no detailed map, no superior army, but they had God's promise. Entrepreneurs need that same courage. Launch your product even if it's not perfect. Meet with big clients when you're not 100% ready. Expand when you still don't have a safety net. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's choosing to move forward because you know who called you. 3. Adaptability. Pivoting to rise above. The Israelites had to learn to live in the wilderness, transition from manna to farming, shift from marching to settling and building. And entrepreneurship demands the same. Pivot your business model when the markets shift. Redesign your product based on real feedback. Let go of old strategies to pursue new growth territory. Failure to adapt is self-exile from your promised land. Adaptability. Shifting to survive and multiply. One of the greatest turning points for Israel after entering the Promised Land was shifting from a nomadic lifestyle dependent on manna and tents to permanent settlement, agriculture, and self-governed economy. This wasn't more than a change in geography. It was a renewal of mindset, skills, and spiritual maturity.
1. No longer living by miracles, but by strategy. The end of manna, Joshua 5 verse 2, marked a shift into maturity. Now the people had to plant and harvest, divide the land and organize society, protect their territory and develop lasting prosperity. Adaptation was no longer optional. It was the condition for survival and growth. In business, adaptability equals survival. Markets shift faster than ever. Any company that can't adapt to consumer behavior, technology, or social changes will be left behind. Example: during COVID-19, millions of businesses had to pivot to online models, remote work, and rapid tech adoption in a matter of weeks. The brands that adapted quickly, communicated clearly, and remained mission-focused survived and even grew. God never changes, but the way He moves across time always adapts. Adaptability is a mark of a Spirit-led leader. Christian leaders must distinguish between what's unchangeable, core values, mission, what's flexible, methods, structures.
You may update your marketing, but don't change your reason for existing. You may revise your business model, but never abandon your divine calling. God didn't just give the people land, He gave them the opportunity to learn how to live and lead in it. In the Promised Land, the ones who survive aren't the strongest, but the ones who adapt fastest in faith and wisdom. Adaptability is not weakness, it's godly wisdom. The ability to hear the market, walk with your team, and renew yourself daily in the Lord. He who has ears to hear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the church and to the business. Strategic risk-taking, faith with a plan. Crossing the Jordan into the Promised Land was risky. Israel didn't know what awaited: fortified cities, warriors, or unforeseen enemies. But they moved forward because to stand still would be to forfeit the promise. The same is true in business. Every leap, R&D investment, product launch, market expansion involves risk. But strategic, faith-led risk, grounded in vision and wisdom, is often the key to breakthrough. Examples: a tech startup daring to build a product no one else has attempted, knowing failure is possible, but so is redefining an entire market. A business weaning off paid ads to build a sustainable brand, knowing it takes longer, but it will be more resilient. Joshua didn't wait for the river to dry. He stepped forward because he trusted the one who promised. Building culture and community, the root of all sustainability. Immediately entering the Promised Land, Israel didn't fight first. They renewed covenant through circumcision and celebrated Passover. Joshua 5:2-10. This was a re-anchoring of their identity, faith, and communal foundation. In business, culture is the soul of the organization. It holds teams together during crisis. It guides decision-making in gray areas. It fuels innovation when vision is shared. Example: a company built on a culture of integrity, learning, and servant leadership, where employees don't just work but live out the bigger mission, can weather greater storms and spark deeper innovation. Weekly prayer meetings, honoring values, mentoring sessions, these are your modern-day spiritual circumcisions. They help your team remember who they are and why they began. A business may survive by capital, but it thrives through culture. Strategic takeaways from Israel's entry into the Promised Land for American entrepreneurs. Vision and faith. The Israelite journey shows that clear vision and unwavering faith are foundational to success. American entrepreneurs must define specific goals and stay anchored in belief even when facing doubt. Example: when Steve Jobs launched the iPhone, he envisioned a future where mobile technology would transform human interaction. That unshakable belief helped Apple push through skepticism and reshape an entire industry. Vision is what keeps you walking when reality tells you to stop. Leadership transitions. The shift from Moses to Joshua shows that sometimes a new leader is needed for a new season. American founders must know when to empower skilled managers to take over as the company grows. Jeff Bezos is a model. He built a strong leadership team that allowed Amazon to expand globally without being dependent on one individual. Great leaders don't cling to position, they pass on the mission. Overcoming with creativity. Jericho's fall demonstrates that victories don't always come through conventional strength, but through creative obedience and supernatural strategy. In business, intense competition and market obstacles require the same innovative faith. Example: Netflix pivoted from DVDs to streaming, not by force, but by foresight, and redefined the entertainment industry. Creativity is obeying a strategy the market has never seen before. Self-sufficiency. When the manna stopped, Israel had to plant and sustain themselves.
a shift from dependence to ownership. Startups may begin with investment, but true growth requires real revenue. Airbnb is a clear case, transitioning from venture funding to a self-sustained service model based on scalable value. Self-sufficiency is the shift from being fed to becoming a builder. Starting a business isn't about making money, it's about answering a call into destiny. Startup isn't about slick models, masterful fundraising, or learning marketing tricks. It's a spiritual exodus, leaving the comfort zone, stepping into the unknown, and allowing God to reshape you into someone capable of stewarding a land of influence. God doesn't hand over the promised land to those who haven't been refined. Every Christian entrepreneur in America today is standing before their own Jordan River. On one side, the dream. On the other, brutal reality. On one side, the promise. On the other, cash flow issues, a fierce market, shaken faith. The real question isn't, should I start a business? It's deeper. Am I living by the promise or by fear? Am I circling my Jericho in faith or quitting before the wall falls? Is my business designed to survive or to conquer? Which Joshua within is waiting to rise in me? Have I prepared my team, or am I crossing the river alone? Am I ready to walk even when the waters haven't parted? Am I willing to lead a new season without using the old ways? Startup strategy inspired by Joshua. Vision, faith, strategy, legacy. Vision comes first. A clear vision is the foundation of every successful business.
Real-world example. Elon Musk, Tesla, cast a bold vision to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. That mission drove Tesla to pioneer the electric vehicle revolution. Check. Practical steps. Write a concise, inspiring, and specific vision statement, e.g., deliver affordable, renewable energy solutions to every household. Communicate the vision constantly to your team, customers, and investors. Use tools like market analysis to ensure your vision aligns with real-world needs. X. Courage to take risks. American entrepreneurs often face major risks, investing in new tech, entering crowded markets, or pivoting business models. Pen. Example. Netflix boldly shifted from DVD rentals to streaming and redefined an entire industry. Check. Practical steps. Run risk analyses to identify potential threats and prepare response plans. Launch pilot projects or MVPs, minimum viable products, to test bold ideas. Surround yourself with mentors or investors who strengthen your confidence to act courageously. F. Build a strong team. You can have the vision, but you won't reach the land without a tribe. Steps to build a Joshua-style team. Recruit people with complementary skills and shared core values. Foster a culture of openness, creativity, and collaboration. Host team building and training sessions to enhance trust and alignment. Bar. Plan strategically. Faith does not replace planning, it fuels it. Key strategies. Develop a business plan including SWOT analysis, marketing strategy, and financial forecasting. Regularly revise the plan based on data and customer feedback. Use project management tools like Trello or Asana to track progress. K. Lead with integrity. Define your business's core values: transparency, social impact, sustainability. Then align every decision from suppliers to branding with those values. Check. Examples. Publish a code of ethics to attract value-aligned customers and partners. Commit to CSR, corporate social responsibility programs like environmental stewardship or local giving. T. Prepare for hard times. Not every day will feel blessed. Joshua faced battles even after crossing the Jordan. Entrepreneurial endurance. Analyze failure not emotionally but strategically. Use lean startup principles.
rapid testing, constant iteration. Build a sustainable business model that can grow with or without external funding. W. Create legacy, not just profit. Your goal isn't just success, it's succession. Legacy building. Engage in leadership development to raise up others. Build systems that allow your business to function without your daily presence. Focus on impact, not just income. H. Lessons from Joshua for American entrepreneurs. 1. Vision and faith. Vision is what keeps you walking when reality tells you to turn back. Pen. Example. Steve Jobs had a vision that mobile tech would reshape human connection. That belief carried Apple through skepticism into industry leadership. 2. Leadership transition. Great leaders don't cling to position, they pass on the mission. Pen. Example. Jeff Bezos empowered new executives to scale Amazon, proving that sustainable leadership isn't centralized, but transferable. 3. Creative problem solving. Creativity is obeying a strategy the market has never seen before. Pen. Example. Netflix didn't out-muscle Blockbuster, it outmaneuvered with insight and innovation. 4. Self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency is the shift from being fed to becoming a builder. Pen. Example. Airbnb matured from investment dependency to a scalable revenue model built on service fees and loyal users. Your Jordan is waiting. Will you step into it or stay in the desert of indecision? Your business isn't just a venture, it's a vessel. And the promised land isn't for the strongest, but for the most faithful. Thank you for walking alongside Faith 7. Your follow is more than a number. It's a mark of faith, a hunger for transformation, and a shared journey toward lasting value. Keep journeying with us, where storytelling, faith, and strategy converge to spark inspiration and action. Pen. Don't miss the upcoming lessons, packed with real-world strategies, transformational insights, and powerful leadership principles crafted for purpose-driven entrepreneurs like you. Faith 7 Business, writing to lead, living to make an impact.